Let's dive right into this explainer. Today, we're looking at a mind-blowing brain scan study that literally flipped a neuroscientist's hypothesis entirely upside down. We're going to explore the physical, structural ways that long-term pornography consumption actually alters the human brain. And what makes this research so incredibly fascinating isn't just the raw data, but how completely unexpected the results were to the actual scientists running the experiment.
I mean, just listen to the candid reaction from the lead researcher when they were asked about the final data. They said, "Were you shocked? Yes, yes, yes." When scientists, people who spend their entire lives studying the brain, are this stunned by their own findings, you know for a fact we're dealing with something profound here. They went in expecting one very logical outcome about how porn impacts the brain, and the reality they uncovered was the exact opposite.
Section 1. The Brain Scan Experiment. So the researchers didn't just hand out some subjective questionnaires, right? No, they literally put subjects into a medical MRI scanner to directly observe them. They measured brain activity in real time. They mapped the actual physical structure of the brain. The goal here was to see if, and exactly how, prolonged exposure to pornographic material physically alters the human brain. They wanted hard, undeniable, biological evidence of change happening inside the skull over long periods of usage. So this wasn't just about psychology anymore. This was about measurable physical biology.
Section 2. A shocking neurological twist.
Okay, so the data comes out of those scanners and it reveals an absolute plot twist. The researcher logically assumed that high consumption of superstimulating material would, grow the brain's reward center. Think about it kind of like a muscle. You use it constantly, you stimulate it intensely, you'd logically expect it to bulk up, right? Well, actually, scratch that. It was exactly the other way around. The actual finding was that the gray matter in the reward center is generally smaller in people who consume heavy amounts of porn. It literally shrinks. Crazy, right?
Section 3. The broken braking system.
To understand why this happens, the absolutely crucial point here is understanding the role of your prefrontal cortex. This is the region of your brain responsible for controlling activity in your reward center. You can kind of think of it as the manager or the rational decision maker that tells the impulsive reward center when to calm down, when to weigh the consequences, and when to just say, okay, enough is enough. It's basically the adult in the room keeping your primal urges in check.
The study specifically refers to this vital prefrontal cortex as a physical braking mechanism for your urges. When you see something highly stimulating, boom, your reward center lights up, but then your prefrontal cortex applies the brakes to keep things under control. So the researchers decided to look really deeply into how well these two regions were communicating in the brains of heavy pornography users. Basically, they wanted to know, are the brakes still working?
Well, in the researchers' own words, the data showed that the connection between the prefrontal cortex, that is, the braking mechanism, onto the reward system, was less strong. That crucial connection simply became weaker and weaker the more porn these individuals watched. The prefrontal cortex was significantly less able to control the activity in the reward region, meaning your brain's brakes are fundamentally failing. The actual wiring itself is getting downgraded.
Section 4. The escalation effect. So because the reward center is physically smaller, and because that connection to the braking mechanism is super weak, the brain falls into this really dangerous, measurable trap. Step 1, a weak connection means standard material just doesn't provide that same baseline level of satisfaction anymore. So what happens next? Step 2, consumers are forced to constantly escalate. The research actually notes that people need to watch more or find more interesting and novel stuff just to get the exact same level of activity in their reward system. They start hunting for more and more extreme material, which leads right to step 3. This constant, endless need for escalation breeds massive dissatisfaction with everyday reality. Section 5. Real-world relationship fallout.
Now, why does all this structural change actually matter for you and me? Well, the data shows that as people hunt for more extreme things to satisfy that shrinking reward center, they run a huge risk. By requiring hyper-novelty just to feel a normal baseline of reward, the natural consequence is becoming entirely dissatisfied with your actual real-world partner. You are fundamentally training your brain away from normal human connection. The everyday world simply cannot compete with an endless, instantly accessible novelty machine. The researchers call this misconditioning. You're literally wiring your brain for an environment that just doesn't exist in nature. Which leaves us with this really profound final thought to consider. By constantly engaging with an endless stream of highly novel, perfectly curated digital scenes, are we misconditioning our brains onto extreme stimuli we will never ever get in real life?
How is our daily digital consumption physically rewiring our ancient brains away from reality? It's a wildly fascinating structural shift happening right inside our heads, and it's something we all absolutely need to be incredibly aware of as we navigate this modern digital world.